Hello viewers. At 75 years old, Tony Evans woke up one morning expecting an ordinary day, prayer, study, and quiet reflection like he'd done for decades. But within minutes, his phone buzzed with messages, missed calls, and links. Something was wrong. His name was everywhere. Social media was on fire. And for the first time in his long ministry, the world was talking about him for a reason he never asked for. The shock hit him hard when he saw the clip, Gino Jennings, in a packed church, calling him out by name. But what came next would shock everyone. Jennings leaned over the pulpit that day with the intensity he was known for, fire in his voice, conviction in his tone, and absolutely no filter. He preached about preachers watering down the truth, and then he dropped the name, Tony Evans. The congregation gasped. Cameras soared upward. And within minutes the clip exploded across the internet like a match tossed into dry grass. People didn't just watch it, they dissected it, argued over it, and formed instant opinions. This wasn't ordinary criticism. This was a public confrontation that turned into a global storm. For more than 50 years, Evans had preached with calm authority, guiding millions with a steady voice that carried wisdom instead of heat. His reputation was built on gentleness, balance, and clarity. So when he heard his name shouted with such intensity, something inside him tightened. It wasn't anger. It wasn't pride. It was confusion, deep, personal confusion. He didn't know what sermon Jennings had heard, what message had sparked such a reaction, or what moment pushed the fire toward his direction. It felt less like disagreement and more like a wound delivered in front of the world. The internet became a battlefield overnight. Some people praised Jennings, saying he stood boldly for truth. Others defended Evans with passion, arguing he had spent his entire life honoring Scripture with grace. Stranger against stranger, pastor against pastor, it was chaos. People who had never heard either man's name before suddenly jumped into the fight. Reaction videos surfaced. Commentaries multiplied. Sermons were uploaded with titles that promised even more drama. And while the world argued endlessly, Tony Evans sat quietly in his study, staring at a small screen that suddenly felt too loud. Late that night, Evans couldn't sleep. He had walked through storms before. The painful loss of his wife Lois still lived quietly in his heart, but this storm felt different. Maybe it was his age. Maybe it was the years of emotional recovery. Maybe it was the way the words were delivered. But this criticism felt heavier than the rest. He wasn't thinking about his reputation or defending his name. He was thinking about the church, the unity that already felt fragile, and the young believers who might see this public clash and lose trust in the leaders meant to guide them. Meanwhile, Jennings' followers celebrated online, praising his boldness with fire emojis and applause. They didn't see the weight on Evans' shoulders. They saw only a spiritual showdown, when in truth, neither man had wanted a war. Jennings believed he was defending doctrine. Evans had always preached truth wrapped in grace. But the internet, hungry for conflict, turned their differences into drama. Inside Evans' home, the atmosphere grew quiet. His children noticed his silence, the way he moved slower, the long moments he spent staring at his desk without writing a word. He had carried heavy seasons before, grief, leadership pressure, expectations from millions, but this moment pierced differently because it came from someone who shared the same calling. And the part that hurt most was the confusion. He didn't understand why his name was chosen. He didn't understand the tone. And the not knowing became another weight he carried. As days passed, the storm outside grew louder. People demanded a response. Pastors messaged him privately. Bloggers stirred speculation. Members of his own church looked to him with quiet questions in their eyes. Every time he stepped into the sanctuary, he felt the unspoken words, "Pastor, what now?" His silence became a mystery. Rumors spread. Some thought he was preparing a massive comeback. Some claimed he was afraid. Some invented stories that had no truth at all. And the noise only grew. But inside Tony Evans' heart, a very different battle was happening. He wasn't angry. He was grieving, not over the words spoken about him, but over the idea that Christians around the world were choosing sides in a fight that never should have existed. He worried that believers would walk away from faith because of the spectacle. He worried about the division. He worried about the message being overshadowed by the noise. And in moments of quiet prayer, he even felt something he hadn't felt in decades, small, almost powerless, as if the world had built a story around him that he no longer controlled. Then came the moment that changed everything. One night, after hours of prayer, he felt clarity rise in his spirit. He realized the issue wasn't Jennings' attack. It was the effect the battle was having on the hearts of people watching. Division had become entertainment. Controversy had replaced compassion. And he refused to contribute to the damage. So on a quiet Sunday morning, he stepped onto the stage with a gentle heaviness in his voice. He didn't mention Jennings. He didn't replay the clip. And he didn't defend himself. Instead, he spoke about unity, humility, and the sacred responsibility believers had to guard each other's hearts. He reminded the church that disagreement didn't have to become destruction. And the moment he finished, the entire sanctuary stood to their feet. Some cried. Some nodded with deep understanding. Others simply breathed out the relief they had been carrying for weeks. Online, the reaction split again, but this time with compassion. People said he took the high road. Others said he showed real strength through humility. Even some who supported Jennings said they respected Evans' response, but the biggest change happened inside Tony Evans himself. The weight began to lift slowly, steadily, through prayer and the support of his congregation. He returned to the rhythm he knew best, teaching, comforting, and leading with grace. The viral clip still drifted across social media, but it no longer stung. He accepted the controversy, understood the pain, and chose peace. And in the end, Tony Evans became the proof of something powerful, that real strength isn't loud, fiery, or dramatic. Real strength is quiet, gentle, steady, rooted in grace. He wasn't just a pastor who survived a public attack.